All right, thank you. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda, Mr. Shipley?
No changes.
No changes. Do we have a motion and second to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Brings us to our old business portion of the meeting. I have 3 items there. Item 2, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on August the 6th, 2009. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So
Move
moved.
approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of those minutes? Haven't had an opportunity to review over those and seeing no comments. All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 3, consider on second and final reading ordinance 090713, amending sections 230 of the Cookeville zoning code to adopt revised floodplain regulations as mandated by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Sponsor, Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, the amendments have been approved by the Planning Commission and recommended by the Planning Department. Adoption of the revised regulations is required to maintain the city's eligibility in the National Flood Insurance Program. We've received no calls or comments since first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no comments, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mills. Item 4, consider on second and final reading ordinance 090814, amending Title 18, Chapter 1 of the Cookeville Municipal Code pertaining to the water storage rates. Sponsor, Mr. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, this is to correct a omission that I made to a ordinance back in June, and it corrects the outside corporate limit storage fees for the outside customers. We haven't had any calls or anything since the first reading.
Thank you. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no comments, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. That brings us to the new business portion of our meeting. Item 5, consider reappointments to the Industrial Development Board. Sponsor, Mr. Jim Shipley.
Mayor and council, this is to 2 reappointments, Dr. Bob Bell of Tennessee Tech and Bobby Williams, president of Williams Wholesale Supply. And that is recommended by the Industrial Development Board.
All right, do we have a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second on those reappointments. 2 very good choices, I might add.
Very good choices.
Any further comments by the council?
Just appreciate their willingness to serve again.
Sure. Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Shipley. That brings us to item 6. Consider approval of emergency purchase of 36-inch and 15-inch pipe to replace existing storm sewer system located on North Walnut Avenue. Sponsor, Mr. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, during some of the recent heavy rains, the storm sewer through the city parking lot on North Walnut between Broad and First, part of it is partially collapsed, causing some flooding to one of the buildings there. The old WPA ditch is adjacent to the building, so we think it might be a risk to damage the building if we tried to repair it. So we're just going to put in a brand new pipe adjacent to it a little farther away, take it across Walnut and tie it into the existing catch basin. We got 2 prices from 2 businesses in town, and I would recommend or ask for approval for the $7,497.60 from Ferguson Enterprises.
Okay, very good. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? I think there was some discussion before. I don't believe we're not going to have to go into North Walnut, are we, as far as tearing up the road, or will we have
Yes,
to?
we'll have to
cut the road?
cross North Walnut.
This pipe actually discharges and goes underneath the park, doesn't it?
No, this is the same. We're going to start from right beside the railroad track,
Okay.
just east of the town center. Go across the city parking lot, across Walnut, and then that little parking lot behind the police department parking lot.
Yeah.
There's a catch basin kind of behind the amphitheater there, and we'll tie in there, and that's where it'll end.
Okay.
And when do you expect to begin? on
Monday.
this? We have tech starting pretty quick.
It shouldn't take too long, and we won't be in the road the whole time. But
Okay.
we appreciate if the newspaper would maybe put a little something in there to maybe have people avoid that for a few days.
Okay. Very good. Any further comments from the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Item 7, consider awarding bid for refuse and cardboard containers, Public Works Department. Once again, Mr. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, we recently advertised and received bids for our refuse and cardboard containers. We had 4 bidders, so one was not a valid bid, but I would recommend the low bid in each category and recommend your approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second?
Second.
And a second. All right, any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Brown. Item 8, consider awarding bid for the sale and removal of 2009 propane gas department. Sponsor, Mr. Jeff Mills.
Mayor and council, a couple of months ago, Mr. Davison brought a proposal to declare their peat shaving plant, the tanks, the equipment, and the propane as surplus, and y'all did that. And after we declared it surplus, we sent out a bid for the remaining propane in the tanks. We had 7 companies request those bids. We had 3 companies returning proposals. We recommend that you award the bid to Admiral Propane with a base bid of 64 cents per gallon, if they were the highest bidder and meeting the specifications.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval. Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 9, consider awarding bid for the sale and removal of 2009 propane air plant equipment, gas department. Sponsor, Mr. Jeff Mills.
After declaring it surplus, we again set out a separate set of bids for the purchase and the decommission of the tanks and the equipment itself. And again, we received the 7 bid requests and got back 3 companies returning proposals. And we recommend that you accept the bid for the purchase price of $161,010.19 and award it to Total Energy, who is the highest bidder meeting specifications.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
We have our motion and a second. Any discussion by the council?
So they'll have 180 days to remove this,
That's correct.
and it will be removed down to just, all that'll be left is the concrete.
Correct. They have the propane, they have 90 days to get the propane, or 30 days, excuse me, to get the propane out. Then the contracts be signed for the equipment. They have 90 days to get it all out but the tanks, and we gave them an option of an additional 90 days, which gave us the higher bid to let the tanks sit there so they could market those. So 180 days, then the concrete pads and everything will be down below grade and gravelled back.
I definitely like the idea of making money off of this. I
Yes.
mean, you know, it's been sitting there and now it's going to be removed and gone, and we're getting money for it. So, good.
Are there any Department of Environment Conservation permits or anything that the contractor's going to be responsible for pulling?
They are responsible for all those, but we haven't run into any of those yet that we've been inquiring about.
Okay, good deal. Any further comments from the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5
Thank
yes
you.
votes, motion carries.
I've got a question, I'm sorry.
No, no.
I want to say back to Mr. Brown. Is that contract for the containers, is that good for a year, or 6 months?
6 months.
Okay, I see that now. So did you anticipate, I know that there was one bidder was lower, but they didn't guarantee their price. Did you kind of run what it would be to buy those 2 containers from them, and the savings that would be versus if you bought them all up front?
Waste equipment?
Yes, sir, if you bought all the...
Well, it varies, whatever the price of steel is, that value, but they're gonna,
I mean, so they don't even lock in for even a day?
no, anytime the steel index changes, they'll change their price.
Well, I was just curious, that was around 10% cheaper if you went ahead and bought those 2 containers under,
Well,
immediately.
I mean, if it is, we can go ahead and do it, but I don't know what it is, if it's changed since this was
Okay.
bid or not.
Just curious, so otherwise this locks in for 6 months on the
Yes.
others? Okay. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you. All right, item 10, hold a public hearing relative to CDBG grants for the Water Quality Control Department. Sponsor, Ms. Kathy Andrews.
Mayor and council, this hearing is a requirement of the Community Development Block Grant Program. The City of Cookeville received $257,000 in 2007 in a community development block grant for a sewer system rehabilitation project. The project consisted of TVing approximately 20,000 linear feet of sewer lines, installing cured-in-place pipe, repairing manholes, and replacing service lines. The goal of the project was to reduce and eliminate infiltration and inflow problems and assist with the elimination of overflows at the pumping stations in the Tennessee Tech drainage area. The project served approximately 1,120 individuals. Total project cost was $681,354. The CDBG grant, $257,000, paid for 38% of that project. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And as I said, this is a requirement of the CDBG program.
All right. Any comments from the council? Comments from the audience? All right. Thank you, Ms. Andrews.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 11, consider approval of eminent domain settlement agreement relative to the construction of Commerce Drive, sponsor Mr. Jim Shipley.
The city acquired right-of-way and easements from Gary McNabb as part of the Commerce Drive project by eminent domain. And to settle this case, the city is, by this agreement, agreeing to deed city-owned property on Jackson Street to Mr. McNabb for the right-of-way and easements that we obtained on Commerce Drive. And when we instituted the eminent domain proceedings, we deposited $60,000 in the court, and Mr. McNabb has agreed that that $60,000 will be returned to the city. And this agreement will resolve all issues in that case. And our city attorney is here and able to speak and answer any questions if I can't. And I would recommend approval.
All right. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second. Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion by the council?
I'd just like to make sure that we put on the record that this is part of, that this agreement and settlement is on legal advice. Doesn't agreement over attorney. Make sure that's part of the record.
And is there anything we need to do additionally to the closure and abandonment of that road, the entryway part?
No, that's, I'm going to inquire with the state about if they want to abandon that portion of that right-of-way. There's just where there was a little driveway in off of Jefferson that went into Red Cap, and for some reason, the state maintained about 20 feet of it going in there as right-of-way.
So that's not our issue, that's the state's
we
issue.
we can't abandon the state's right-of-way.
Right.
And I would think that Mr. McNabb was concerned about how it would affect setbacks from any proposed building he might put on the site. And I would think that the state, number one, would probably abandon that right-of-way, and number two, I don't see how that would ever affect
this
yeah.
this transaction here. Okay. Very good. Any other comments from the council? Comments from the audience? Seeing no further comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
That concludes the new business portion of our meeting. We have a couple of announcements to make here. One is that we'd like to all, as a council, wish Miss Kathy Andrews, wish her well in her new endeavors, and we certainly have appreciated all of your help and the things that you've done for this community, and that will have lasting effect for future generations as well. You've done quite a bit for us, and we really appreciate it. Hate to see you go, but we wish you well. Also, we have some guests with us tonight. If we could recognize our visitors from the Boy Scouts of America, if you guys would just stand up, and we appreciate you all joining us for our meeting. I sit on an Eagle Scout review board at the here in Cookeville, and I would encourage you to stick with this and reach that goal of Eagle Scout. I'm assuming this might be part of a merit badge that you all are with us here today.
Well deserved.
And make sure when you sew your canoe merit badge on there that you have it in the correct position on there. I usually catch people with that one. But we appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
One other announcement. And hopefully Phyllis Bennett out at UCHRA won't get too upset with me for announcing this, but we have just, we went to Washington back in March or April of this year, requested funding for a pilot project to do a fixed route bus system here in Cookeville, and we have received funding for that, and 1 year's worth of operational costs. And we had just one meeting, and really yesterday actually, to find this out, but met with Tennessee Tech and the hospital and the city and UCHRA, and ordered the buses as of yesterday. So hopefully starting January 1, we'll have a small 2-bus system that will run from the university, the hospital, the downtown area, the shopping districts in our community, and hopefully begin be the beginning of something very large for our community. I think it's going to be really good, and we're very hopeful we can have something going before TSSAA get here. So that's pretty exciting. And does the council have any comments or any announcements? We usually.
I'd just like to thank the Leisure Service Department, Public Works, and police, all the people that helped Abby and I put on the After Dark series of events 2 weeks ago. Seems like a long time ago, but anyways, it was a well-attended event, had the movie in the park, and was able to raise some money for the park, so we're really excited about that. Hopefully we'll have another release of information about how much money we were able to raise. We had a little over 400 people participate in the chip-timed event, and one of the things we did add this year was a kids 1-miler fun run. And we were very surprised to see how many. We had a little over 75 kids and their parents and older siblings running down Dixie and back, and so we were really excited to see families come out. And one of the things Abby and I had hoped is to find more things to do for young families like us as it relates to the park. So it was really exciting to do that, and many thanks to Bruce and Alma. They had a fundraising party at their house, and it was well attended, and they were able to contribute to the Dogwood Park Fund as well. So many thanks to the community and also to our departments for allowing that to come off without a hitch. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you spearheading that. I've had several comments from people in the community about the event. I think it was a huge success. I see here, I don't know, Gina, are you going to talk about that? I know the new 911 center is going to be opening up, and the public, I believe, is invited to come Saturday to tour the new facility.
The health department and the EMS facilities right off of Willow, and I was just visiting the health department just a little bit today, and it is really something to see. So, of course, I used to work at the health department, so it was an experience for me to see this new facility. But the public is invited Saturday to tour both buildings, and I know you'd be in for a pleasant surprise to see how things have grown and how much better the facilities are for those services now.
And some true leadership within those two agencies too. I know Randy Porter and Lisa Bumbalow have had their hands full the last couple of years getting this off the ground, but they've done a fantastic job, as have others.
Fall Fun Fest is coming up on the 11th, and then Dogwood Park will have on the 13th in the evening, Symphony, 7:30. That's always a big draw.
Any other comments from the council?
I'm back to teaching, so I'm talking all day.
Any comments from the audience? At this time, we usually open up the floor for a hearing of citizens and/or delegations. You can come to our council meetings. We host nice, civil, and open meetings here. And you can come and speak to up to 3 minutes. Tell us your ideas about things going on in the community. So at this time, if there's any comments, we'll certainly listen to what you have to say. Maybe the scouts have got a speech prepared. No?
Extra merit badge if you speak.
All right. No comments from the council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.